Chapter 5.2 How could humans have acquired their altruistic moral instincts? As evidenced in paragraphs 180 to 182, throughout our mythologies and in the work of our most profound thinkers, there is a recognition that our distant ancestors lived in a pre-conscious, pre-human condition afflicted, innocent, unconditionally selfless, genuinely altruistic, fully cooperative, universally loving, peaceful state. As the author Richard Heimberg's research into this collective memory of a Garden of Eden-like golden age in our species' past found, as he wrote in his 1990 book, Memories and Visions of Paradise, every religion begins with the recognition that human consciousness has been separated from the divine source, that a former sense of oneness has been lost. Everywhere in religion and myth, there is an acknowledgement that we have departed from an original innocence. So yes, when Nikolai Berdyaev acknowledged in his 1931 book, The Destiny of Man, that the memory of a lost paradise, of a golden age, is very deep in man, he was expressing what we all intuitively know is the truth about our species' past innocent existence, as was the philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau when he, almost 2 centuries earlier, wrote that nothing is more gentle than man in his primitive state. The origin of the words associated with our moral nature reveals this underlying awareness of the extraordinarily loving, ideal behaviour expecting, good and evil differentiating, sound nature of our instinctive self or psyche or soul, the voice or expression of which is our conscience. For instance, from the concise Oxford Dictionary, our conscience is defined as our moral sense of right and wrong, and our soul as the moral and emotional part of man, and as the animating or essential part of us. While, as mentioned in paragraphs 258 and 260, the Penguin Dictionary of Psychology's entry for psyche reads, the oldest and most general use of this term is by the early Greeks, who envisioned the psyche as the soul or the very essence of life. Indeed, as the early Greek philosopher Plato wrote about our innate, ideal or godly behaviour expecting moral nature, we humans have knowledge both before and at the moment of birth of all absolute standards, of beauty, goodness, uprightness, holiness. Our souls exist before our birth. Our soul resembles the divine. When the philosopher Jean Fiske wrote about the existence of our moral nature in his 1874 book, Outlines of Cosmic Philosophy, he was similarly effusive. We approve of certain actions and disapprove of certain actions quite instinctively. We shrink from stealing or lying as we shrink from burning our fingers. And, while our moral instinctive self or soul will shrink from stealing or lying, it is not merely concerned with avoiding the ill treatment of others, it is also deeply concerned with ensuring their well-being. For instance, when the professional footballer Joe Delaney admitted that, I can't swim good, but I've got to save those kids, just moments before plunging into a Louisiana pond and drowning in an attempt to rescue 3 boys, he was considering the welfare of others above that of his own. The truth is that everywhere we look, we see examples of humans behaving unconditionally selflessly, such as those who show charity to others less fortunate or sacrifice their lives for ethical principles. Indeed, now that we can explain the human condition, it becomes clear that since the human condition fully emerged some 2 million years ago, every generation of humans has had to suffer becoming self-corrupted in an unconditionally selfless effort to aid the accumulation of knowledge that would one day liberate humanity from the human condition. To borrow the words from the musical Man of La Mancha that were included in paragraph 68, every generation has altruistically marched into hell for a heavenly cause. Our species' unconditionally selfless moral nature is undoubtedly a wonderful phenomenon. However, as mentioned in chapter 3.7, Alexander Pope saw our awe-inspiring, best and highest distinction-deserving, divine-like absolute standards of beauty, goodness, uprightness, holiness, expecting, animating very essence of life, moral and emotional, essential part of us, in a very different light, pointing out that our nature is a sharp accuser but a helpless friend. And he was right in the sense that, as was made clear in that chapter, our ideal behaviour expecting moral conscience has been a sharp accuser but a helpless friend. It has criticised us aplenty when what we needed was redeeming understanding of our good and evil afflicted, corrupted or fallen present human condition, which we now at last have. Paradoxically, until we could explain our present soul-devastated, innocence-destroyed, angry, egocentric and alienated condition, we couldn't afford to face the truth that our awe-inspiring moral soul is our instinctive memory of an unconditionally selfless or loving past. And so we undermined its very existence. Yes, just as human condition-avoiding mechanistic scientists argued that unconditional love was not appropriate for scientific study, in 2000 the psychologist Ronald Conway noted in the Australian newspaper that soul is customarily suspected in empirical psychology and analytical philosophy as a disreputable entity. But with a fully accountable human psychosis addressing and solving truthful explanation of the human condition now found, we can finally acknowledge what our soul is and most significantly heal our species' psychosis or soul illness. Yes, since psych means soul and osis, according to dictionary.com, means abnormal state or condition, we can at last ameliorate or heal our species' psychosis, its alienated, psychologically ill, abnormal state or condition. But recognition and resolution of the issue aside, the very great question that remained to be answered was how could we humans have possibly acquired such a distinct from other animals, awe-inspiring but sharp accusing instinctive orientation in the first place? What is the biological origin of our species' extraordinary moral nature?